So first of all, it's a real pleasure to have this opportunity, and I would like to ask you just a couple of questions that I really want to know about. So first, with the boring one, how did you start? I mean, not like when did you pick up the instrument, but I'm more interested in, because we know when you start an instrument, you want to know how to play this song, that song, sound a little bit like someone. Who are your like really the first influences?
Well, the first influences probably came from the records that my mom and dad had. Mother's from the Bahamas, so when she came to America, she brought over some music that, was native to her country. My father is African American, Native American Indian, and he was very deep into big band music and stuff like that. He had a lot of 78s and stuff, old 78 records and stuff that was this, But he had a great collection of records and music. It wasn't, it was small, but it was there. And I remember listening to like stuff on the stereo in the house, records from the Caribbean, junk canoe bands from the Bahamas, and different, popular musicians that were happening at that time, the Mighty Sparrow. And then I was listening to my mother like Johnny Mathis and Chubby Checker, and the whole rock and roll stuff was kind of happening. So it was an eclectic kind of vibe going on in my house. My parents weren't musicians; they were, they worked a lot. Really great parents. But that's where my musical experience first came from, just listening to stuff that was available at the house, and then turning the radio on. And I grew up in Connecticut, so there's a lot of great college radio stations up there, so you don't realize that when you're growing up.
Yeah.
When you're young, but as you get a little older, you start to get into the next sector of your life, and you start to check out girls and music and stuff like that.
Cool.
Got into another level.
So, in my opinion, at least, you sort of play really untypical for the way bass is seen. When did you start to, I don't know, develop, or how did you start to develop using all those effects, taking the bass a little bit away from its primary role?
When I was young, I started performing, let's just take it back even further than that. I played around a lot. I grew up around a lot of guitar players, and in 1960, from 1967 is when I started really checking out some different things, like Jimi Hendrix, Sly and the Family Stone, the Stones. There's a lot of stuff going on. But I liked as much as I liked music, I liked the sound of the instruments, and I liked the sound of how the instruments were treated, whether it was an engineer processing certain things with EQ through a Neve board back in the day, or whether it was a tape echo being used with a spring reverb or something like that. It just was just sounded cool, man. And Vietnam was happening in America. There's a lot of bands going around, and some of my friends were in Nam, and they would come back and bring guitars and little strange little artifacts back from that region and stuff. And I remember just kind of like taking one of my friend's guitars, and he had an amplifier, and we didn't know what we were doing. We just tuned the strings any damn way and play some records and just overload everything. Just started. I was like, that's kind of cool, messing around with somebody borrowing a cheap Zimgar guitar. I like the music, but I like the sound that also accompanied the music. Whether it was how they recorded the records, you hear drums on one side or bass on the other side. I like the dimension of the sound, and like I said, I grew up around a lot of guitar players, and when I started playing, the wah-wah pedal was popular, and fuzz had just came out. And stuff like that. And from the time I started playing, I always experimented with just devices, My first setup back years ago was I had an Echoplex, a wah-wah pedal, like maybe a Phase 90, MXR Phase 90 phase shifter. I think I had like a wah-wah pedal also that had like distortion in it. So I was working with the tape echoes when I first started, getting into working with bands and stuff. I played guitar and I played bass parallel for a moment. And during my, high school years, started off in 9th grade, doing my first gig at a pep rally at school, playing a 4-string guitar. I couldn't afford a bass. And, but I was fortunate because my brother Victor was always around a lot of folks, and my sister Diane were older than me. They were around a lot of folks that were really cool, and they would let me hang out with them. My brother had friends, and my father was cool. We let some bands rehearse in my basement. So I just be here as a little kid, just checking things out, checking out the drum and seeing how everything is. Then they leave the gear there that night, and I pick up the guitar and maybe bang around with it. And so it's interesting. It's a very interesting development. I had access to instruments at a young age. When I was not too young, but at an age when you're like 9 or 10,
Just right.
You started really, okay, I'm playing sports, but I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. But one thing was, going back to the Bahamas, I have an aunt there, Aunt Naomi, and she ran a store on a street called Bay Street in Nassau. And it was really deep. On one side it was appliances and refrigerators and stoves. On the other side it was musical instruments. So they had, I guess they did a deal with Fender and stuff like that, and some of the primary companies that were around at that time. So I would spend summer vacations there, and it was so hot during the summer I would go hang out at my aunt's shop because it had air conditioning. And nobody would be there during the day. So it was Fender bass, precision bass, jazz bass, Tele, Strat, twin reverb, bassman, stuff like that. She had a few little things in there. So she would let me sit and play the guitars and a little wah-wah pedal and other things that were there. Wasn't much stuff available at that time, but I turned the vibrato on, plug a bass through it, through a twin reverb, and turn the vibrato on, and hit the reverb, and stuff like that. And just kind of, it's cool. So I always, to answer your question, I always was processing stuff from a very young age. Just from the time I first started. Anybody that knows me, I've always, I can add that attraction to the sound, cool. But otherwise, just give me a cable and plug straight in.
Yeah.
That happened for many gigs. But I was also developing the sound of the instrument, the electronic guitars and basses, and just trying to adapt the tone to, come to a common tone from what I'm hearing to what the instrument is doing, how I can translate it through the instrument, and what the sounds can actually do to help enhance and inspire me to play so much stuff. So it's kind of where it came from.
Great. You said that you grew up around a lot of guitar players, and I just wanted to ask you, on the Herb Albert record with you, with Will, and you, there's this acoustic guitar, I forgot the title.
That's me, I play it.
Yeah. And I also wanted to ask you to play any other instruments.
I dab at other instruments. I can play, keyboards and drums, and kalimba. I started off playing kalimba, but keeps your thumbs moving.
Cool.
A little bit of flute.
Flute.
I kind of like dabble with a few things, other percussion instruments. And it's interesting once you get to a point, especially as a bassist, you understand rhythm and a little bit. You understand rhythm because you're working with drummers. You understand chord structure because you're working with guitar players and keyboard players, and you understand wind instruments because you're accompanying. Back in the day when I was growing up, it was like, horn section, percussion player, 2 guitar players, maybe even 2 organ players, and a bunch of singers. It's dope. So you listen and you adapt. And, as you get older, depending on how you were trained, some people have have training coming from school, you know, working in bands and stuff. And, you know, other people have training by working with other musicians that pass that information on. And I was, you know, so I picked up little things, you know, I play the organ a little bit, listen to bass pedals, but I can, you know, guitar, bass, drums, keyboards, I can.
We've heard, you know, in a lot of bands, just to name a few, Living Colour, Lil X, Jungle Funk, Herb Alpert, Mick Jagger, even on Joe Satriani's.
I love Joe. Joe's great.
Bing Sherman, I don't know, and the variety of styles you play with is really wide. So what I would like to ask you, how do you approach all these different types, styles of music, different band setups? What do you look for?
First and foremost, you have to understand you have to isolate what the themes are about. You know, what are we going for here? If I'm doing Mick Jagger, it could be very rocky, it could be ballads, and it could be diversity. There's a tone that needs to be displayed that can accompany, you know, a rock drummer or the way the studio is presenting things. So, you know, there's certain key things that I try to focus on. I try to isolate the tonic of what's going on, and I try to understand the music. I try to understand the person first and foremost. What's the artist about? What are they trying to do? The producer that they're working with is a key thing because they bring a system to the production for the artist. Different producers work certain ways, so I understand what is the producer trying to accomplish, where the clashes are, you know, how to stay out of the way of any, you know, moving vehicles that, you know, can cause violations in the groove. And so it's deep, you know. To me, it's your personality is what comes out when you're dealing with different genres of music. And patience is really what it's all about. I watch and I see, okay, today's today. Okay, what is this bringing me, and what do I need to do tomorrow if I'm lucky to make it there, to get more comfortable and make everybody else feel more comfortable with what I'm doing. Because that's what it's all about. It's about comfort. It's getting people to understand that you will give them what they need and they don't have to worry about it. They don't have, you don't leave the rehearsal and then they're on the phone talking to somebody else. Well, he's not giving me what I need and stuff. You talk to the artist, see what they need, try and translate that, talk to the producer, and, you know, give them their space, and then try and find a character that works within your bass playing for the artist, and then develop slowly, the confidence between the songs, and you can put some of the things that you do actually can find a place if you're patient enough to listen to what's needed for the song first, and then between tone, like bass, amplifier, the approach, the position of how you're playing stuff, the strings, a lot of things go into the setup of doing a recording. And when people feel confident that you understand that, it helps. And just be patient, stay out the way, let the traffic flow. Don't try and be a police officer or come in with the cure for cancer. Just let things flow, because things change. So Jagger will be one approach. Joe Satriani, different kind of approach, but similar. Because Joe's more of he's a soul guitar artist, and he is at a level where he's dealing with some other kind of mathematics that is really cool, and he can hear it really, really well, whether you're in key or not, whether you're in pitch and stuff like that. And with guitar players, you have to be careful, because you have to, especially if you're playing with keyboard players, because keyboards and guitars have a wave that's naturally there, and certain guitar players struggle with trying to keep things in the right tone. So with Joe, it's like, give him the sound that he needs, like stuff with a precision bass, and playing with a pick, preferably, and being precise with the lines he's doing. So you gotta, Joe's stuff is the simplest stuff that that he has is it can be difficult to execute because a lot of times when Joe lays his basic tracks, his ideas, he's playing bass. He's picking and playing, so he's got a whole another kind of approach. There's another bass player coming in, adapting to that. Stuff sounds simple, but when you start to sit down and make it happen and make him happy, it takes a moment. You know, Ben Sherman is a whole different kind of approach. You know what I mean? Depending on whether you know what we're doing. You know, and it's just my whole thing is whoever I'm working with, I try to, you know, if I'm doing any Lennox or Madonna or Seal or there's a certain energy that they need from me. Maybe it might come from the acoustic side. Maybe it comes from, you know, how to leave more holes and understand how to create a dynamic that they need via the least amount of notes possible. And it's just understanding that, and not, you know, try things out, you know, go with the wave, but still, you know, you have to be very smart. You have to understand the log. This isn't working. That isn't working. And you know, the mind's working, and you try to accommodate for everybody. So it's about to sum it all up. You know, when you're in the studio and you're recording for people, you know, it's an art. You know, some days are good, some days are bad, but be patient and try and understand the song and the artist and what they're trying to do and where they're trying to go. You know, some artists, as they develop, they want to do something else different. And, you know, if they call you, a lot of times they call you for because somebody's recommended you, and the recommendation comes by way of your vibe and how your attitude is. Your attitude, you know, develops your altitude. A lot of players can play, but when the studio is a interesting place to be, and when it's time to record, a lot, you know, there's a red light that comes on and people freak out. Mm-hmm. Some people are specialists in certain styles of music, and you cross them over into other things. You know, it's interesting. So it's just understanding how to be, understand the character of what you need to play for that music on that day. And then as the days go on, you'll figure out the role that needs to happen and how to apply your style and talent.
Cool. Next question. Drummer-bassist relationship. Right. I mean, relation. For the most musicians think that is the heart, the engine of the band. I mean, of course, all have to cooperate and play together well, right, and have the vibration, but how would you describe this relation, bass, drummer, and specifically, how would you describe you and Will? Because that's the drummer.
You know, the drummers and bass players are like, it's a very good question. Drummers and bass players are twins. You know, sometimes they're identical, sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're split at birth. They find each other later on in life. And that's kind of how that sequence goes down.
Do you know the joke when the bass player and the drummer commit suicide?
No, tell me.
No. They didn't play well, and then they gave up. Come on, man, let's kill ourselves. It doesn't matter. Let's throw ourselves off a building. And you know how they fell down?
How they fall down. Well, there you have it. You know, that just about sums it all up. Bass players sound better when they're working with a drummer that makes them feel comfortable where the meter is and how to identify and play different styles and how to attack dynamics and how to do space. And when you find there's a great joy for bass players and drummers because we can just sit and play all day, you know, non-stop. We're both percussion instruments to a certain degree, depending on how you're dealing with how you're looking at it and how things are being applied. So we're dealing with pulse and we're flipping pulse and we're swinging pulse. You know, it's fun, man. It's like a seesaw. I mean, if you're on a seesaw by yourself, you're just be in one position. When somebody starts to give you that sensation of like, oh man, I can play off of this person, and I'm learning how to adapt to that person's beat and style and meter and heart. And after a while, it's fun, man. It's like It's really, really great. Then other times you deal with a situation where you find yourself with another percussionist or whatever, where that sensation is not as elevated as another drummer's. But what you do is you work with them. It's like the whole thing is, it's like anything, you exercise and then you can develop something that's a good tone for you. And so other things, you have to work with certain drummers to get that comfort. It's like you lock in. For a perfect example, when I was doing Mick Jagger's, one of his solo records, Charlie Watts came out to Mick Chateau, and it was great. You know, Charlie was there, one of his kids were there. But Charles was like, look, yeah, I've been attending my horses for a while, so I haven't played in quite some time. No problem, Nick was cool. We just sat and started jamming. You know, we started playing. And one thing I try to do is lock and accommodate to a drummer and find the style. And you know, it's like if you have it's like anything else, man. You know, you have to exercise the muscles and it gets going. And you know, me and Charlie started playing, started, you know, jamming and doing a lot of stuff, and then the next day, and the next day, and the next day, next thing you know, it's like there's a tone there. And it's important for everybody to, you know, to understand how to develop a connection if you want it, if you want it to happen, you know what I mean? Music is free, and it's important to keep that freedom going on. So with drummers, I love working with all different drummers because they bring a different swing, a different style, and a different approach. And drummers are completely different. They're not like guitar players or any horn player or keyboard player, because as a percussionist, everybody's body is shaped differently and they set the kit up in different sets. I mean, different positions. And cymbal might be here for one drummer and another drummer might be a little taller. So it's interesting how they set up, how they tone, how the tone of their drums are, how they tune their drums. Really, really interesting. So certain drummers they come with a character, and for a bass player, it's very important to be able to play with different drummers so that you can learn from them the swing, or they can learn from you, you know, a certain swing, you know, and a certain vibe of how, you know, you both can approach certain songs. You know, you take one bass player, another drummer, they'll play stuff a certain way. Another bass player, another drummer, it's going to be a different kind. You give them the same song, it's going to be a different vibe, and that's the beauty of music. So if you're lucky enough to be in a situation where you can work as a bassist with a lot of drummers, it's essential to me. And I've always wanted to be in a situation where, you know, I work with different bands, but I'm always trying to, you know, when the time organically happens, to approach working with different people and different drummers. Leading up to Will Calhoun, and Will, you know, myself and Will. Myself and Will have, you know, working together from Living Color in 92, 91, 92, 93, then taking a break, and then we've developed jungle funk and stuff like that. And working with Will was great, because when I got with Living Color at first, Will's a fantastic drummer. Working with a clique, he was having some slight problems just in adjustment, because when you have drummers that are there's so much natural talent, you know, it can, you know, time can swing a little bit, and it's great to swing it. And what I did with Will was I said, yo, get this box. We'll start jamming with that. And, you know, blah, 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 blah. So we really sat and did a lot of work together, just organically as mates, just talking about music even before we played, and challenging ourselves. Because Will's fucking outrageous drummer. You know, I mean, he's the only drummer on the planet that I know that brings what he brings. And that says a lot, you know, because he's really deep into what he's doing, and he listens. He's a drummer that listens. So we really worked on, you know, me and Will would sit for hours and just, you know, maybe we played with a click, turn the click off, or whatever, have loops, get him playing with real loops, different kind of stuff. So I kind of hit them to some of the samples / stuff from a different approach from, you know, how I kind of approach it from training with, you know, just how I came up. And started to, you know, took them on to the drum and bass shit, kind of rolling on that really early, and, you know, when a lot of cats were really hip to it. And And it was a lot of fun, man. So we started developing stuff, just me and him. You know, I had some tracks I did in London. We would use those as themes for some things. And those tracks ended up going on the Jungle Funk records. So we really developed a lot of stuff, me and Will, just putting different styles of music together, from rock, from hitting hard, sweating coming off stage with Living Color to going to doing, the Jungle Funk stuff, which has a different tone with another kind of approach, which was kind of hip at that time, I think. And just a lot of different stuff, head fake, different things, and it's been it's great to be able to work with somebody like Will, because he gives you all the stuff you need. It's right there. He's open, and he's a drummer's drummer. A drummer comes to New York, he's hanging out with him. He's not a communist when it comes to that. He shares what he knows, and that's what it's really all about, sharing the knowledge. So we've been working together for now. It's about 15 years now, maybe 16 years. We developed a really, really good relationship as friends, and the freedom for us to we have to all explore what we need to do. We have to, we love playing together. And Will does his jazz band, I might be doing stuff with Little Axe. We get back together and do our thing. We bring this information back to the television, It's great. Great job.
To finish it off, what does the future hold for Wimbish?
Hopefully a few more years of life, and to be able to continue to love my family and love the people, the good friends that I'm around, first and foremost, at this stage of my life. And to be able to keep the standard of music and the quality that I like. I've done a lot of stuff. A lot of bass players may or may not know some of the things that I've done. They may know certain sectors or whatever. And it's good because I've done a lot of stuff. And I'm very fortunate to have to be at the dawn of hip hop and there during the industrial stuff, and just back in the funk days in the early 70s, with me and Skip with Woodbrass and Steel, and then being able to hit off with doing, really great people, great artists, and I'm just, I just want to be able to do the music that I want to be able to help people. Just continuously get involved with now, just trying to help some other folks that could really use that help. And that's really key. When everybody's like, me. Now I'm like, I'm cool. I got a new solo CD coming out. I just finished, which I'm really excited about. It's really cool. I think it's exciting because I'm not trying to do like some solo bassist kind of thing. It's a production with a sonic and a tone, just trying to, induce the character of what, you can do as a bassist or as an artist. And, working off of themes and stuff, and continue to work with all my great friends, Living Color. We're going to do another record. Looking forward to working with Corey, Will, and Vernon. And me and Will have Heck Maker trying to get finished off. There's going to be a Tackhead record coming out on Virgin EMI. Little Axe is happening. Me and Bernard Farmer have a group we're putting together called Bad Dog. We're going to be touring over here with JoJo Meyer. And it's a lot of things happening, man. I'm doing a Trace Elliott solo clinic tour. I'm just trying to stay busy while I can walk around now and, and keep things happening. And just that, like I said, I'm really trying to help some folks. I have a thing called the Wimbish that I'm doing, which, it sums up all the time you're going out, you meet people, it's like, we gotta do something together. Yeah, man, you ready for the jam? You did that for years, and it's like, you know what? I want to have a party, and I just want to have it so I can have all my friends come and jam. And all their bands and stuff, and I call it a Wimbish. It's called a Wimbish. So that's been taken off a little bit. I'm gonna have a Wimbish at the NAMM show in Los Angeles, January 19th. And it's great, a lot of different musicians come and do their bands, and I got, Spanish guitar players, me, Skip and Keith, and do some Tackhead stuff. Will's gonna bring some of his jazz musicians out. I got Dave, who used to be the bass player in Megadeth, bringing some of his bass out. It's like cats that wouldn't get in the same room that will be able to play based on the way that you know, the industry is, you know, because it's celebrating rock, jazz, funk, hip hop. Trying to find a tempo where I can bring everybody together, they can do their thing, and then you start to create, to see what happens, man. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do. But first and foremost, blessings to the, you know, I'm hoping that we can get to a point in the world where we don't have as much drama going on. Hopefully the musicians can help calm them down. Peace.
Cool.